Okay. Friday edition of the After Show. Got Wink and Justice with you. Wink over here on the East Coast.
And Justice over here on the West Coast of the contiguous United States of America. It is Angle of Repose Friday. Surveys say that is the angle in which a granular substance stays in place on a slope, but we here at the After Show really suggest maybe it should be the angle in which you are reclining in your Barca lounger while reading Wallace Stegner's Angle of Repose. Oh.
There you go.
We made it through another weekend in which we'll be totally inundated with just the most scandalous news that we'll have so much of come Monday. We can't talk about it all week. It is just... when it rains, it pours. My gosh. Speaking of which, how are you?
Not bad. It is 37. A little rain out there, a little drizzle out there today. Nothing major. But it's supposed to get up to around the 45 mark. It's a typical day for this time of year. Reminder to get in the chat, just go to netrootsradio.com. Scroll down the bottom of the page, and on the right-hand side of the bottom of the page, there is a link to the chat. Just click that. Join us there.
And, of course, to the leftish of the chat room link are the donate, contribute buttons. We are searching and comparing hardware that we need and some software that has to be put in it. When you get the hardware, you get the software, and that's where the magic happens. Isn't it odd? Ones and zeros, Wink. Ones and zeros. So your help in that endeavor is very much appreciated. Thank you. And podcasts for the after show can be had on Spreaker. Wink, we mentioned before, he's a busy fellow, and he puts what we call the raw data file up ASAP.
Right.
And
a little bit behind this week, but we'll get them all done today.
You're good, bud. But you can find the players on our various platforms. I don't think the Spreaker player, I haven't tried, but there's actually a reason why there's not an embed on there because of bringing in third-party stuff.
Right.
And so that's one of the reasons why the player disappeared even on David's diary. Oh. So I don't know if the Spreaker embed would work because or not. I mean, it's not the live, radio player.
Right.
So the live radio player won't stick, but I haven't tried the Spreaker one. But regardless, there is a Spreaker player on the blogger sites.
Yes.
And
check those out.
Yeah. So. Oh, and then I should mention as well is that the perfected file then comes out after that on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, TuneIn, and that other one with the heart. Okay, if you choose to use that one, use it at your peril, but you can be found there too, such as it is. Well, here along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, it's the temperature is rising right now. Wink, it's 32.7 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
And according to the Weather Underground, 32.7 feels like 33.
Okay.
Just so you know, feels like 33.
Right.
We will be going up to 66, and that's how you catch a spring to summer cold.
Yeah, that's where you get those, yeah.
But April showers bring May flowers. You know that. We are ostensibly supposed to not have rain. That doesn't mean that we'll be dry. Because right now there is a fairly... I went outside briefly. A pretty cold, wet... I mean, at 32.7, that feels like 33.
Right.
It feels like it's almost freezing.
Yeah, pretty close, yeah.
I would say. And, a degree or two there, here or there, So it will be wet, even though it won't be raining, because I live in Oregon, even though I live in what's known as the Pineapple Express Belt.
Right.
We do get warm in the summer where I'm at, but we are having I don't know. Is this like where they soften you up? I'm having like the weather in Oregon of my youth.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if it's like then the spaceship comes down and they go, oh, let's go to paradise. Everything will be fine. And the reporter comes out and says, it's a cookbook. It's a cookbook.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Scary if you ask me. But we shall not ascribe those things. All we can do is ascribe to what is actually happening. That's crazy enough, Wink. I mean, that's
Right.
enough to make you go off. I mean, you almost feel like a reporter will be coming out at a Sean Spicer presser and say, it's a cookbook. It is a cookbook. And Sean Spicer will say, stop nodding. Stop shaking your head. Stop it. Stop it. Isn't it an odd political season, Wink?
Yes. Say the least.
So the Senate Intel, of course, committee hearings are ongoing. And it looks like the Russian, how shall I put it, sabotage, that seems to be ongoing too. You would expect it. I mean, it's been ongoing according to the hearings. I mean, they've been doing stuff for over 70 years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The papers rounded it off to like almost 100. Yeah, well, 70, or so.
Close enough. Yeah.
A little bit longer. But so that's what they do. And I suppose if you let your guard down or you don't ascribe, oh, well, those are just little pinpricks. That's not really a battle. And then they go out in the field and they go, where's all our tanks? And some guy comes staggering and says, just a couple of pinpricks. And then they were gone. So.
Oh, yeah.
And then they realize, oh, I guess we're in a battle. Yeah, we tried to tell you. But you called them pinpricks. Then you came out here and you realize, all that mud, that's where the tanks are. Splattered. So we're in a battle. Some people are calling it a war, Wink. That they have waged war on us. It doesn't matter whether our Congress goes and declares war on them. If they've declared war on us, we're in war. And so I suppose we should, not to say that we don't do our little pinpricks. But that's, I don't know. Putin is a mobster oligarch, and we are ostensibly a democratic representative republic. I'm just trying to say that we're supposed to have the moral high ground.
Yeah.
Supposed.
We are.
Supposed. I just don't go with this, when Trump came out and said, you think Putin's so brutal, you think he kills people. Well, we kill people too. You think America's so innocent? Chris Wallace was sitting there going, oh my God, what the hell have I got myself into? Get me out of here.
Yeah.
All right. These are the issues we will be attending to today. And they are, it being Angle of Repose Friday. So lean back and what was I'm trying to remember who. Oh, it was the Republican strategist who is appalled at the current process, shall we call it, coming out of the White House. He said, strap yourself into your seats, folks. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Yeah.
Germany pushes back on Secretary of State Rex Tillerson's demand for more European NATO spending. I guess he's got that $33 billion invoice. Or no, it's 300. Works out to actually $370 billion, 300 billion euros to Germany to, pay up. That's your share for, if you don't want it, we're going to have to come by and break your legs. And Germany's going, do you really want us to ramp up our military might and do what we did before? Are you serious? House Republicans voted to curb the EPA's use of science. Yeah. It's now by edict. Wink. Magic.
Right.
Science. We don't need your stinking science. I guess they're going to just do it by the magic of the market, and that'll determine who are winners and losers while they put their fingers on the scale because of who pays them the most. That's how the market works, right? That's the magic of the market.
It's called market forces, yeah.
And Sean Spicer specifically, and, basically people are all saying Trump feels great about spending millions of dollars of taxpayer money on his weekend Mar-a-Lago junkets while getting paid by the Trump organization to do it.
Right.
I guess if you're of that moral turpitude, you'd feel great too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. Well, it is on the last half, and on Friday, it's the Friday News Dump and Recycling Center. News that's been repurposed with a purpose. The Senate Intelligence Committee that I referenced earlier, those hearings have revealed illuminating and harrowing insights into the Kremlin's spy games and Trump's collusion with Putin. And in an example of investigative journalism at its finest. And you can take that as a joke, a little, satirical thing, or you can take it truly as an example of investigative journalism at its finest. A Gizmodo reporter makes a compelling case that she has found FBI Director James Comey's secret Twitter account. Dogged reporting at its finest, Wink. You're on the beat and you don't give up when everybody else has.
There you go.
And what happens? You come away with the fruits of your labor. I think this is, I don't know. By turns, it's like, are you kidding me? And the other part is, well, yeah. You get the little, and then you get the big. All that, plus the Connect, Unite, Act, Daily Codes, community calendar, and more on the after show. With that ever so fine fellow over there on the East Coast with his attendant. East Coastal elitism, though subtle it be, and his name is Wink. And this guy all the way back over here on the West Coast, and my name is Justice, and I'm brash because I'm from the West Coast, and I have that elitism too.
Yeah. Yep.
But man, let me assure you, it's not just confined to the West Coast of America. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, yeah, and my name is Justice, and we do this 5 days a week for an hour-ish in this particular, specific, and peculiar tear in the fabric of space-time because who loves you, baby? Rex Tillerson doesn't like to be looked at. The staff and even other diplomats around the world have been told, don't make eye contact with him. Don't do it. And so there's been speculation on social media, like, do you turn to stone? Like, is he Medusa? And I'm like, I don't know. I think he's like, the character in Blue Velvet, he's like putting the Dennis Hopper, Dennis Hopper plays that character. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. Puts a oxygen mask over his face when bad things are about to happen. I think we're in like some weird. Look at Tillerson. I mean, he's definitely in Twin Peaks. I think he's the husband of the log lady.
Yeah.
I swear to God, don't look at me.
Yeah, there's a couple that do look like they're in Twin Peaks.
Don't look at me. Oh my God. Yeah, that's where we are now.
Yep.
Okay, Rex Tillerson's demand for more European money, and the Germans are going, yeah, sure. Move along, husband of the log lady in Twin Peaks. We saw that. Are they they're doing a remake? Yes, they are. Not to put it down, I love Twin Peaks.
Oh yeah, it's great.
And Blue Velvet, and it's it's a cult favorite too as well.
Yeah, I never did see that, but I'll have to take.
Yeah, a little rough. I mean, but of course, if we want to have something that's really rough, you got to see Eraserhead.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Oh man, I mean, you can watch it, but you better. It's the. I don't know if you call it the soundtrack, but the auditory experience is what is, shall we say, drives the film.
Yeah, indeed.
So, Eraserhead. And Blue Velvet, I mean, it's slick in comparison, but, a little rough. All right, this is out of Reuters, by the way. Germany said today that NATO's agreed target to spend 2% of the members' yearly economic output was neither reachable nor desirable, countering Washington's demand that European partners comply, and quickly. We are being run as a mob outfit now, Wink. It's just...
Oh, yeah.
The United States provides nearly 70% of NATO's budget and is demanding that all allies make clear progress toward the agreed target this year, and only 4 European NATO members, Estonia, Greece, Poland, and Britain, have done so. 2% would mean military expenses of some 70 billion euros. I don't know any German politician who would claim that that is reachable nor desirable. Germany's foreign minister Sigmar Gabriel said at the first NATO meeting attended by U.S. Secretary of State, "Don't look at me, Rex Tillerson." Tillerson, however, reiterated Washington's demand and said the U.S. will push that agenda when NATO leaders meet on May 25th for the first top-level summit of the alliance. So-called president, in this reporter's opinion, of course, Donald Trump will attend that meeting. Well, sure, if he's, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe by closed-circuit TV because he might be, a little busy by depositions that day.
Yeah. And possibly closing down NATO after the meeting. Yeah.
Our goal should be to agree at the May leaders meeting. By the end of the year, all allies will have either met the pledge guidelines or will have developed plans that clearly articulate how the pledge will be fulfilled, Tillerson said. All allies must demonstrate by their actions that they share U.S. government's commitment, he drawled again. In Berlin, German government spokesman Stefan Seibert said the government was committed to increasing defense spending and would continue to do so because they know it is necessary and makes sense to further the strength of our armed forces. Members have until 2024 to comply with the spending target, and by that time, I think the first people who will have been jailed will have almost served their terms. It's like what? It's 2017 now. 6-year sentences for some offenses.
Right.
All right. And others will just be getting put in because of the appeal process and, delays. 2024, they might be just going in. And we'll have a recommitment to strengthening NATO and making sure that this never happens again. In this reporter's opinion, of course. Tillerson did, however, offer assurances of Washington's commitment to NATO, softening Trump's stance. Everybody has to be a Trump whisperer now, Wink. Trump has criticized NATO as obsolete and suggested Washington's security guarantees for European allies could be conditional on them spending more on their own defense. He also said he wants NATO to do more to fight terrorism. The United States is committed to ensuring NATO has the capabilities to support our collective defense, Tillerson said at the meeting in Brussels. We will uphold the agreements we have made to defend our allies. All accents are in this reporter's opinion, of course, just to be clear. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said ties between European NATO members and the United States were rock solid. And, we are here on the after show to complete the sentences that haven't been made, but they wish they could. Now, when Jens Stoltenberg says that ties between European NATO members and the United States are rock solid. He means in the parts of the United States government where it really matters, has some longevity, because this guy, I don't know, he's going to be in jail, right? Stoltenberg said the ministers would discuss fair burden sharing to keep the transatlantic bond strong and stepping up NATO efforts to protect stability and fight terrorism, which means if we're going to fight Trump, we got to fight him on his own grounds. Just say that you're going to give it to him, and then when it really matters, make him pay pennies on the dollar. Accept pennies on the dollar. Okay, here's pennies on the dollar. Okay. They're not saying that they want to have stability and fight terrorism with that move. Oh, yeah, we'll share some transatlantic costs so that we can project. Yep. I think they're stalling for time, Wink. Good on them. Stoltenberg confirmed ministers would discuss national defense spending plans on Friday as the bloc seeks to respond to the new harsher tone from across the Atlantic, which has galvanized European NATO allies. This Reuters article is obviously written from there, looking back over here. We're on the other side of the Atlantic, Wink. Just so we're clear about that. Though Washington has also offered reassurances, Tillerson's initial decision to skip his first meeting with NATO foreign ministers reopened questions about the Trump administration's commitment to the alliance. The meeting was later rescheduled, and Tillerson was attending today, though has not scheduled meetings with individual countries as is customary by the Secretary of State during such meetings abroad. Well, he refused to even meet embassy staff and families for the old, rah-rah meeting and to lift spirits.
Right.
Because people might meet his gaze. Can't have that. Trump can't stand shaking people's hands. He's a germaphobe. Tillerson doesn't like people looking at him. Don't look me in the eyes. Stop looking at me. Yeah. The best and the brightest. Whew. Boy.
You find him in a coffee shop at Twin Peaks, no question.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, wasn't part of the construct of NATO, the alliance, is to hold out a kind of bond among nations. But really, our true purpose as being the leaders of the free world was to make sure that by our 70% presence, that everybody fell in line because we were the biggest ones on the block, right? Because we didn't want them to go to war again. We wanted them to be friendly neighbors. You have some squabbles, that's fine. But when the chips are down, we all come and we fight that common enemy, whatever that is over there. When we need to protect the civil rights of people, or maybe we do have some business interests and there's some BS going on, and maybe we got to be there as policemen. Rather than some sort of protection racket in which we extract funds out of people so that we encourage them to be in conflict again, do we really want Germany and Japan to increase their military budgets? Isn't NATO part of even the extension of the Treaty of Versailles? To give a semblance of autonomy, but with a cap on how much you can be in conflict with your neighbors. Well, of course, what does Putin want? He wants those conflicts again because that way he can grab a little piece here and a little piece there, right? I mean, that's not a secret. He's only said he would. Okay, it's Friday. I hope people are still reclining back. Strap it on, though. You better strap yourself in, because it's a bumpy ride. This next article is by Natasha Geeling out of Think Progress. The House of Representatives voted on Wednesday to significantly limit the science that the Environmental Protection Agency can use when creating regulations, leaving some critics concerned that the agency will not be able to issue important safeguards on public health and the environment. Known as the Honest and Open New EPA Science Treatment Act, or HONEST Act. Honestly, are you kidding me? The bill would prohibit the EPA from using any data that is not publicly available, would require all scientific studies to be replicable, and would allow anyone who signs a confidentiality agreement to view redacted personal data or trade information. The bill passed 228 to 194, largely along party lines. Only 3 Democrats voted for the bill. Joe Manchin, you mother F. Still, those totals represent a small shift. The last time the House voted on a similar bill, only 1 Republican voted against it, while 4 Democrats voted for it. The bill was sponsored by Representative Lamar Smith, a Repug of Texas, chairman of the House Science Committee, and noted critic of the EPA under President Obama. Smith defended the bill on the House floor by arguing that, quote, if policies are not based on legitimate science, regulations will result in economic hardship with little or no environmental benefit. You mean like methane storage facilities blowing up and incinerating the local elementary school? You mean restrictions that prevent that? And I'm sure Lamar Smith would say, well, that school was really antiquated. It had to go anyway. Yeah. Thank God there were no kids in it at the time. Critics argue the bill would severely limit the kind of science the EPA could use in justifying regulations and would place a number of unnecessary burdens on EPA scientists. In fact, Pruitt just yesterday, wink, said that this particular ingredient that's in, it's not glyphosate, but it's another ingredient in another compound that is used on crops, and it causes brain damage in small kids, and it's showing up in farmers and farm workers. And all they wanted to do was label a hazardous, and we got to hazardous substance, and these are the ways to mitigate it, and it should be phased out. And Pruitt said, science schmience. This has no environmental benefit, and it hurts the market that's paying me money right now to take it and put, He just essentially went against 5 years of research and said, I'm the one that decides what goes and what stays. The requirement that studies be replicable. I'm sorry, I skipped a little bit here because there's a thing that about it being peer reviewed. Public health studies that use confidential information protected by HIPAA, for instance, could not be used by EPA scientists because personal health data is protected and not publicly available, even when studies using that data have gone through a peer review process and been published. The requirement that studies be replicable might also present an unnecessary burden, as many long-term studies are not immediately replicable, meaning that we've had 3 to 5 years of showing this cancer-causing agent being a cancer-causing agent, and these numbers keep rising, and if we don't put some sort of thing on this quick, by the time the 10-year study is over, we're going to have X amount of people dead. And that's the same sort of argument in rushing certain kinds of medical compounds when people are suffering from various ailments. And the studies show, well, this is where it's going. There might be an ethical issue in terms of when you're doing that, you're still doing, blind studies, except now they're really on humans, right? But people sign off, give me the experimental drugs, once they've been through that process and they seem to show promise. This Orwellian bill is clearly designed to suppress certain scientific research that has been central for environmental health and regulations. Representative Elizabeth Etsy, a Democrat of Connecticut, said on the House floor, "In my state of Connecticut, we rely on those regulations to deal with the asthma crisis we have, based on power plants in other parts of the country blowing polluted air into my state." You know, when the Oklahoma Dust Bowl happened, Wink, it darkened New York. It's not the first time the House of Reps have voted to limit the EPA's ability to use science in justifying regulations. In 2014 and 2015, the House passed versions of the Secret Science Reform Act, which, like the Honest Act, sought to limit the data that EPA can use. At that time, President Obama said he would veto any such legislation that came across his desk, but the Trump administration has positioned itself as much friendlier to industry, appointing Scott Pruitt to lead the EPA, and he has often railed against regulations from the EPA. Of course. Well, Lamar Smith, for his part, is a frequent contributor to the alt-right news site, wait for it, Breitbart, which regularly publishes debunked or misleading analysis of climate science. The House Science Committee Twitter account, under Smith's tenure as chairman, has also tweeted debunked climate science from sites like Breitbart and the Daily Mail. Yes. They want to pray the rain away. A lot of praying going on there. Well, you know what they say. While you got your head down praying, you never know who's stealing from the collection plate you just put in.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
Okay. And that's their angle. Ooh, okay. This will go quick. This is by Aaron Rupert out of Think Progress. President Trump visited a Trump-branded property for the 8th consecutive weekend last weekend, but let's make it 9. Right? It's going to be 9 this weekend, But he didn't make it down to Mar-a-Lago during Wednesday's White House news conference. Fox 5 DC's Ronica Cleary asked Press Secretary Sean Spicer if the president's decision not to travel to his private club in Florida was, quote, in any way in response to some of the pushback he's received about the cost associated with those trips, end quote. Well, you know, the local people down there said, we can't stand this anymore. We couldn't stand it before he was president.
Right.
Now we got to put up with this. Come on. I think that has a lot to do with it. But when the cost of Air Force One, Coast Guard expenses, security staffing, and other expenditures are factored in, each Trump trip to Mar-a-Lago cost the federal government about $3.3 million, according to a Washington Post analysis. And that does not account for the money local West Palm Beach and Palm Beach County taxpayers are forced to dole out for law enforcement and overtime costs. It also doesn't factor in revenue local businesses lose because of the disruption caused by Trump's travels. Because in this case, no one gets to sell anything when he's in town.
Right.
I'm serious. They clamp it down. On Tuesday, Joint Economic Committee Democrats released an analysis finding that taxpayer money spent on Donald Trump's vacation since January of 2017 could have paid for child care for 2,338 kids in Mississippi, just in Mississippi. And that's with the lowest child care costs, or 521 kids in the District of Columbia with the highest child care costs. Instead of paying for President Trump's vacations, taxpayers could have sent 3,140 students to college in Wyoming with the lowest in-state tuition, or 815 students to college in New Hampshire, which has the highest in-state tuition this year. And those numbers are conservative, as they only include Trump's first 3 trips as president to Mar-a-Lago, and not his most recent one during the first weekend in March. Now, I have to interject. I mean, he doesn't get all 3.3 million spent each weekend. Okay. But you do know he has his own private Secret Service that accompanies him everywhere.
Yeah.
And are a much tighter circle around him than the actual Secret Service. And yes, those fellows get recompensed.
Oh, yeah.
And when he stays at his resorts, the government pays the room fees for all of those Secret Service agents, private and public, and all the other attendant staff that need to be there. And those monies are part of the profits that go into Trump's pocket. Nice little scam there, huh?
Not bad. Not bad.
Meanwhile, Congressman whose district includes Mar-a-Lago wrote a letter to Trump asking him to do something to relieve the nearly $2 million burden his four businesses have already placed on local taxpayers. Wow, $3.3 million the Fed costs, $2 million just in Palm Beach. While we want the fullest protection for your visits, we hope you would be responsive to the losses of small businesses and residents of Palm Beach County. Representative Lois Frankel, Democrat, wrote, if compensation is not assured of being forthcoming, we respectfully ask that you curtail your business until such time as that matter is resolved favorably to our area. They lose $2 million because ice cream stands can't sell ice cream on hot days when the president's in town, for instance. Nail salons can't do nails. Hair salons can't do blue hair. I mean, the blue hair industry is taking a hit there, Wake.
Right. Yep.
I don't know. I live in blue hair haven already.
Yep.
I can imagine what it's like there. Of course, on the other hand, this is a little bit like Trump going to NATO and saying, hey, pay up. But it's a little bit different because we have it constructed here a little bit different. Because it's also recognizing that this isn't about goodwill. It's really placing a burden on these people because look at this entourage. But he doesn't care.
Right.
The bigger the entourage, the better. The more difficulties it is for those people, the better. That at least they know who's boss. All right, let's get to our Jim Hightower break. We'll come back, go through the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Codes community calendar, and finish up with the Friday News Dump and Recycling Center. You're listening to the After Show on Networks Radio with Wink and Justice, and we will be right back.
We're hearing a lot these days about House Speaker Paul Ryan's 123-page legislative plan for Trump Care, the GOP's so-called replacement for Obamacare. In fact, we now learn that it's actually a displacement plan. 24 million Americans who are now insured would no longer get coverage. The premiums paid by senior citizens would be jacked up, and the benefits for practically everyone would be cut. But Ryan did make sure that one group with special needs will benefit from his legislative wizardry: the CEOs of giant insurance corporations. Understandably, none of the GOP lawmakers who've been loudly crowing about killing Obamacare have mentioned a little 6-line proviso hidden on page 67, discreetly titled Remuneration from Certain Insurers. In plain English, this gob of gobbledygook offers a tax subsidy that encourages insurance conglomerates to increase the pay of their top executives. Current tax law says insurers can pay as much as they want to top executives, but they can only deduct $500,000 per executive from their corporate taxes. Under Ryan's ripoff, however, we taxpayers would at least double and possibly quadruple the unconscionable salary subsidies we dole out to these enormously profitable corporations. The White House and GOP Congress proclaim that their replacement of Obamacare is, quote, the will of the people. Really? How many Americans really think that jacking up the pay of super-rich insurance chiefs is a proper use of our tax dollars? And I'd say a big majority of the people would think it immoral to steal life-saving health care benefits from working class and poor families just to subsidize corporate elites who are already overpaid. This is Jim Hightower saying, if Republicans actually think their executive pay subsidy is the will of the people, why are they keeping it a secret from the people?
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Okay, we're back.
And indeed, we are back. Thank you for sticking with us. This is the After Show with Wink and Justice. Justice here along the banks of the Rogue River, in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the West Coast. Wink is in upstate New York, 21 on the East Coast. Our crew are the ethereal creatures who reside in the cloud, whose advanced intergalactic technical abilities allow Netroots Radio, and thus by extension the After Show, to span the globe, the solar system, out past the Oort cloud, out past the bridge of stars, wherever that may be between those two ethereal galaxies, even further away than we can imagine, and beyond.
Right.
Today's Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast Community Diary is facilitated by Smiley Creek, as it is every Friday, because she and Paradise 50 will never be called to come back to do jury duty again.
Right.
Not from the last times they had to.
Yeah.
They know them now. It doesn't take
bastards.
long. And her opening today is Your Reading List. And, yeah, well, I don't do the audiobook thing, Wink.
No.
Maybe
No.
maybe I should, but and now I've read 4 audiobooks.
Yeah.
But for myself, it's not really a market that I actually do. Maybe mostly I think because I'm not in a car where I might use it.
Right.
Because who wants that kind of downtime? I mean, if
Right.
I'm going to listen to, some fading radio station,
Yeah.
or the same 5 CDs I keep forgetting to take out of the car and they're melting in the heat,
Right.
that kind of thing.
Yep.
Then I would listen to audiobooks. But
It's
I
good
just
for the
don't do
commuter that's got a 20-minute, 25-minute, half-hour commute. But other than that, I don't know.
Or, even longer. You're on long business trips and you're going to,
Yep.
some people, district managers for places,
hell yeah.
will drive to 15 in the area.
Right.
That might be within a 300-400 mile radius.
Right.
But, they leapfrog to this one, then drive to the next rather than fly it all. Or fly it at the end.
Right.
But regardless. Okay, new groups forming. Wisconsin Cossacks are forming up a group. Cosmail Chris the Colladem, if you'd like to be a part of that group. Because, hey, we want the land of milk and honey back, and Wisconsin is part of it, okay? Come on. I'm serious.
Yeah.
We want safe and regulated cheddar
especially
cheese.
Wisconsin, I would say, yeah.
Especially Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Come on. Navajo does maintain the events list, so Cosmail her if you have any events you'd like to announce. Let's see the spring Cheers and Jeers Cossack meetup. That's with the New England Cossacks. That's the one I've been announcing here. I failed to mention that it's the spring 2017 Cheers and Jeers meetup, and they're like planning, of course, for Netroots Nation. That will be occurring Saturday, April 22nd at noon at Flatbread Pizza in Portland, Maine. Cosmail and Hawks 42 to RSVP a seat. And, I'm sorry, didn't have my cursor in the proper position. New York City Cossacks will be meeting up on Sunday, April 23rd, the next day. But this is in New York City because Navajo is visiting, and they're going to meet up at Spitzer's Corner, 101 Rivington Street in the Ludlow District at high noon. Cosmail Navajo to attend. Quite a few people.
If I have that day off, I may head down.
Wow, looks like Chris Reeves might even be in town.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, very cool.
Right. Okay, thank you, fella. And good. If you head down there, that'd be great too. In fact, I don't see you on here, but you should be a maybe too. You'll be put on.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll put in. I'll let Navajo know. That's all. It's a stretch because I don't know what my schedules are. Work schedule is still like a week or so before. But
as I was just scrolling down, I saw Chris as being a maybe. That's pretty cool. Okay, Thinking Fella and Ojibwa have been organizing the third Epic Glacier National Park meetup. This year is held June 30th through July 2nd. Very important diary for very important planning details. RSVP, of course, with Thinking Fella and Ojibwa. They'll direct you more succinctly where that diary is. And as I referenced earlier, the Cheers and Jeers annual dinner at Netroots Nation in Atlanta, Georgia this year will be occurring the night before the official opening of Netroots Nation, and that is Wednesday, August 9th at 5:30 p.m. Cosmail Navajo to RSVP a seat, and the location will be determined as she gets more and more people, which she does every day. I open up the diary.
Oh yeah. That's the place to be. Yep.
I'll just say it since it's Friday. At some point, there's a cap. You'll want to get into the Cheers and Jeers dinner.
Without a doubt.
And you won't. And so then you go to a karaoke bar. And that karaoke bar is filled up with people who couldn't also get in. Right?
Yeah.
Because it's just, there's only so many seats in the auditorium that they rented. Right?
Right.
Third-rate karaoke bar.
It's a good kickoff for the whole weekend, really, it is.
It'll be a third-rate karaoke bar, and then after that, a Denny's.
Yeah,
and they don't really like singing at Denny's.
I'm telling you, yeah.
All right, so that is your Connect Unite Act Daily Coast community calendar for Friday, the last day of March 31st of 2017. And now let's get to the Friday News Dump Recycling Center because we got not terribly long breakdowns here, but illuminating and harrowing is how it was described. This is by way of Alexandra Rosenman out of Alternet. Led by Chairman Senator Richard Burr and Vice Chairman Senator Mark Warner, Burr being the Republican of North Carolina, Warner being the Democrat of Virginia. Well, this sort of like a fine Southern gentleman, don't you think? Don't you think? Well, indeed. I don't know. Maybe Warner in Virginia is considered the Northerner. Maybe.
Yeah, I think he would be, yeah.
Well, the Senate Intelligence Committee held its first public hearing yesterday on Russia's interference in the 2016 elections. Equal parts illuminating and harrowing, it offered fresh insight into the Kremlin spy games and raised new questions about the Trump administration's possible collusion with Putin. Now, of course, when I'm writing headlines, I just, come on. I'm a commentator. In this reporter's opinion, I just kind of, they have to be, objectively distanced.
Yeah.
But we sort of, we corroborate. We do. I come at it from three different angles. And a lot of times, I got to tell you, there's a part where it seems obvious, like it smells like it, it looks like it, right? 2 plus 2 keeps equaling 4.
Yeah. Yep.
So possible collusion with Putin. Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see how possible it is. Okay, well, some revelatory moments during the hearing. Trump appears to parrot Putin's fake news. You know, there is an article that came out separate from this that the reason Russia puts out this fake news is because they know that Trump will repeat it. They tried it a few times. I mean, part of the reason active measures have worked in the U.S. election is because the commander-in-chief has used Russian active measures at times against his opponents. Clinton Watts, Robert A. Fox Fellow in the Foreign Policy Research Institute noted. Now, remember, active measures, this is what they mean, that it's been like a close to 100-year effort. And they've been doing this. They've been planting fake news in newspapers, you know, in the backs of like little run-of-the-mill backwoods newspapers even, back in the day. Trump's claims that the election was rigged appeared to parallel Russian propaganda, the number one theme pushed by RT Sputnik News all the way up until the election, Watts said. Russian active measures have been in play for nearly a century, as I referenced earlier here. Roy Godson, professor of government emeritus at Georgetown University, spoke of the covert and overt methods used by Russian officials since the 20s and 30s. They created an enormous apparatus in the world. They used this apparatus to be able to influence the politics of Europe after the war. Now, of course, let's not forget, we kind of reacted in a way that furthered, you know, this apparatus, right? That's why they called it an arms race. We have a howitzer. They finally got a handgun. But because they got a handgun, now we got to have 10 howitzers. They got another handgun. That means we got to get 20 howitzers. After a while, 20 howitzers is not big enough, so we get something else. Let alone when they start getting a machine gun, what the hell happens? Right? We were diving under desks, probably for fake and real reasons, Wink. That's what's scary about how the fakeness became all too real in situations.
Yep.
And that resonated well into just, I would say, fairly recent history when the Strategic Air Command is scrambled because they mistook a flock of geese for Russian fighters. And our nuclear-tipped warheads were pointed that way while we sent our people up to find out what the hell was going on. And thank God we didn't have somebody like a Lieutenant Colonel Jack T. Michael Flynn with his finger near the button. Godson went on, the methods were used to help Europe and sometimes the U.S. in fighting the Nazis and the Italian fascists, Godson noted, but they were also preparing for being able to undermine democratic and liberal parties, including the United States. Russian propaganda on steroids helped employ thousands. We experienced these attacks in real time also, Wink. The Russians employed thousands of paid internet trolls and botnets to push out disinformation and fake news at high volume, flooding our social media. You know, I interviewed a young woman who was at the Nixon Library protesting Dick Cheney. And, you know, when we do that, when we have people on the show, oftentimes we'll follow them and they'll follow us on social media. Well, it was really odd finding out that she seemed like a weird agent provocateur after a time, Wink. If we go back and listen to that particular interview, she did say that she hated Hillary Clinton and that she was more sort of like anarchist than a Democrat.
Yeah.
And I kind of like steered the interview away from that because I wasn't really interested in trumpeting up that sort of aspect because I'm not into anarchy, and Hillary hate just seems too knee-jerk to me.
Right.
So I just kept it on the Cheney aspect. But I kind of got the feeling, and but over time, and especially during the Trump run, it was just too weird. By turns, a Bernie broette,
right.
a dudette, right?
Yep.
And then she was like all for Trump. And it was the weirdest thing. And I don't usually unfollow people, but I don't know. I just didn't want to have it on my timeline. It was just, just didn't want it. It was weird. And then turns out that she was actually paid to be doing a lot of this stuff. I mean, she's been outed and everything.
Right.
Okay. So that was, flooding our social media at high volume. Mark Warner confirmed this fake news and disinformation was then hyped by the American media echo chamber and our own social media networks to reach and potentially influence millions of America. This is not innuendo or false allegations. This is not fake news. This is actually what happened to us. Russian operatives then sought to undermine American politics long after the election. And this past week, we observed social media campaigns targeting Speaker of the House Paul Ryan, hoping to foment further unrest amongst U.S. democratic institutions, Watts told senators. He claims one of his targets was Senator Marco Rubio, a vocal critic of Russia. And of course, the money trail is littered with bodies. There's been more dead Russians in the past 3 months that are tied to this investigation who have assets and banks all over the world. They are dropping dead, even in Western countries, Watts concluded. These are all huge openings to understand how they are funded by the Russian government. I don't have the capability to do that from where I sit, but I think that's a huge angle. Yeah, follow the dead bodies.
Right, right.
If you need to follow the money, you got to follow the dead bodies. All right. Okay, well, let's see here. Okay. Very compelling case that Comey's private Twitter account has been outed. So maybe, possibly, definitely FBI Director James Comey has locked down that Twitter account, Project Exile 7, but not before following an image with a link to FBI Jobs.gov. And okay, very funny. So it's by Elizabeth Frezza out of Raw Story. True investigative reporting manifests itself in myriad ways, from Woodward and Bernstein to Netflix's making of a murderer. Wherever there's a curious mind with the will and fortitude to solve life's most perplexing puzzles, there is magic to be made. Gizmodo reporter Ashley Feinberg yesterday proved just that, providing a compelling and exhaustive account of how she found FBI Director James Comey's social media presence through her unparalleled investigative skills. As Feinberg writes, Comey, whose bombshell letter last October is almost certainly the reason our current president cannot spell tap, spoke at the Intelligence and National Security Alliance Leadership Dinner on Wednesday, where he revealed he has a top-secret Twitter and Instagram account. Lordy be. Comey told the attendees that he got into Twitter after his daughter showed him a tweet that read, "Comey is such a political hack. I just can't figure out which party." That is the greatest compliment, Comey added, proving that even FBI directors seek validation through Twitter accounts and mentions. Well, that statement was all by Comey was all the Gizmodo reporter needed. And there is an exhaustive accounting of how she did it. I will also mention that apparently Comey is a big fan of Reinhold Niebuhr. And if you don't know who Reinhold Niebuhr is, you should. So that brings us to the end. Do go to our Daily Co's diary and our blogger page, and you'll find the appropriate links. That's it's quite funny how she came across it, and quite compelling too. So let's get to out of here, because we got Hartman coming up about 6 minutes after the hour. We'll see you next on Monday. Bright and bushy, same time, same station. But we also have live radio over the weekend, a 1 hour opportunity with the Roundtable Roundhouse Power Hour with Wink and Roaring Girls, Saturday night, 9 p.m. on the West Coast, midnight on the East Coast, and then, of course, 2 hour opportunity on Sunday night with Jibber Your Jabber with Wink, 9 p.m. West Coast, midnight East Coast. So stay tuned to Netroots Radio. 24/7, 365. But before we go, I should mention we're going to listen to Trouble Every Day by Zappa before Hartman comes up. And so, like I said, listen to Netroots Radio 24/7, 365. Why? Because who loves you, baby? Okay, Wink, I will see you on the other side.
All right. We're out.